Are the outer gods competing or cooperating? In the vast, broken expanse of the lands between, where golden leaves fall like tears from a dying tree, and the very air seems heavy with the weight of ancient mysteries, there exists a question that has captivated lore enthusiasts since the first Tarnished set foot upon these cursed shores. What if everything you thought you knew about Elden Ring's gods was wrong? It's a question that cuts to the very heart of Elden Ring's cosmic mythology, challenging our understanding of divine power, cosmic purpose, and the fundamental nature of existence itself. Are the outer gods locked in eternal competition, each vying desperately for dominance over a fractured world? Or is there something far more complex at work beneath the surface? A grand design where apparent enemies might actually be unwitting collaborators in some vast, incomprehensible scheme. Here on Sleep Talk, we embark on a journey that will take us from the primordial unity of the One Great to the sprawling conflicts that rage across multiple planes of existence. We'll examine the evidence with the careful attention of a scholar, studying ancient texts, piecing together fragments of truth from item descriptions, environmental storytelling, and the cryptic words of characters who speak in riddles and half-truths. But before we dive deeper, ask yourself this. If the gods themselves are uncertain of their alliances, how can we mortals hope to understand? The outer gods of Elden Ring are not merely background entities in this epic tale. They are the architects of reality itself, the puppet masters pulling strings that stretch across millennia, influencing everything from the birth of demigods to the very laws that govern life and death. Understanding their relationships, their motivations, and their ultimate goals is key to understanding the deeper meaning behind every quest, every boss battle, and every tragic story that unfolds across this magnificent, melancholy world. But these beings exist beyond the normal comprehension of mortals. They operate on scales of time and purpose that dwarf human understanding, manifesting their will through avatars, champions, and elaborate religious orders that span generations. Their influence seeps into every aspect of existence in the lands between, from the golden grace that guides the Tarnished to the Scarlet Rot that devours entire regions, from the Frenzied Flame that promises to burn away all suffering to the Ya, dark moon that offers cold comfort in an age of uncertainty. What makes this investigation particularly fascinating is that the evidence points in multiple directions simultaneously. For every instance where we see clear antagonism between these cosmic forces, we find equally compelling examples of cooperation, absorption, or synthesis. The very nature of divinity in Elden Ring seems to blur the lines between opposition and unity, suggesting that our mortal understanding of conflict and alliance may be fundamentally inadequate when applied to beings of such vast scope and power. Consider for a moment the complexity of what we're dealing with. We have the greater will, which fractured the primordial One Great, and now seeks to maintain order through its golden order. We have the Frenzied Flame, which desires to burn everything back to unity. We have the Scarlet Rot, which spreads decay and rebirth. We have the Formless Mother, who craves wounds and blood. We have the various moons that guide the fates of sorcerers toward an age of stars. We have the Fell God, whose flame can burn even the Erdtree itself. We have the God of Death, whose power over ghost flame and destined death predates the current age. Each of these entities possesses its own agenda, its own vision for how reality should be structured, its own understanding of what constitutes the ideal state of existence. Yet they all operate within the same cosmic framework, all draw from the same fundamental sources of power, all seem to be working toward endpoints that, viewed from a certain perspective, might not be as contradictory as they initially appear. The conventional interpretation suggests that these gods are locked in a cosmic struggle, each seeking to impose its will upon the lands between, while destroying or subjugating its rivals. This interpretation is supported by numerous examples of direct conflict throughout the game's history. The Greater Will's war against the Fire Giants, the sealing of the god of Rot, the suppression of destined death, the persecution of those who follow the Frenzied Flame, the complex relationship between the Golden Order and the Academy of Raya Lucaria. All suggest a world where divine powers are fundamentally at odds with one another. Yet there are equally compelling examples that suggest a more nuanced reality. The Fire Monks, servants of the Golden Order, incorporate the power of the Fell God into their incantations. The marriage between Radagon and Renala represents an alliance between the greater will and the power of the full moon. The very structure of the Elden Ring itself seems to incorporate elements from multiple cosmic sources, suggesting synthesis rather than simple dominance. Perhaps most intriguingly, the revelation in Shadow of the Erdtree that Miquella sought to create a new age by charming others and unifying desperate factions under his divine influence suggests that the very nature of godhood in this universe tends toward unity and absorption rather than simple conquest and destruction. The linguistic evidence, too, is fascinating. The Japanese term for outer god, drawn from translations of Lovecraftian literature, suggests beings that exist outside normal reality, but are not necessarily antagonistic to one another. The concept of the one great, from which all things allegedly originated, implies that these seemingly separate entities may be fragments of a greater whole rather than truly independent beings. This is where our investigation becomes truly compelling. If the outer gods are indeed fragments of the one great, then their apparent conflicts might be better understood as different aspects of a single consciousness attempting to reintegrate itself. Their competition might be cooperation viewed from a different angle. Their wars might be negotiations. Their attempts to dominate the lands between might be attempts to create the conditions necessary for eventual reunification. The evidence. We'll examine ranges from the macro level of cosmic mythology down to the micro level of individual item descriptions and character motivations. We'll look at how these gods influence their champions, how they structure their religious orders, how they manifest their power in the physical world, and how they respond to challenges to their authority. We'll examine the role of Empyreans as vessels for divine power and consider what it means that multiple outer gods can influence the same individual simultaneously. We'll look at the complex relationship between order and chaos, between synthesis and separation, between the desire for unity and the necessity of diversity. Most importantly, we'll consider what this means for our understanding of the Tarnished journey. If the outer gods are indeed cooperating on some level, then the player character's role becomes even more significant. Rather than simply being a pawn in someone else's game, the Tarnished might represent something entirely new, a being capable of transcending the limitations that bind even the gods themselves. The implications extend far beyond simple lore curiosity. Understanding the true nature of the outer gods' relationships helps us understand the real stakes of every ending, the true meaning of every choice, the deeper significance of every alliance and betrayal that shapes the narrative. It helps us see the bigger picture behind the immediate struggles and conflicts that define the gameplay experience. So let us begin this investigation with open minds and careful attention to detail. Let us examine the evidence without preconceptions, following the threads of connection, wherever they might lead. Let us prepare to challenge our assumptions about the nature of divinity, conflict, and cooperation in one of the most complex and rewarding mythological systems ever created in interactive entertainment. The question before us is not simply whether the outer gods compete or cooperate. The question is whether these concepts, as we understand them, are adequate to describe the reality of cosmic entities whose existence spans dimensions, ages, and states of being that transcend mortal comprehension. The answer, as we shall see, may force us to reconceptualize our understanding of both competition and cooperation entirely. The foundation of all things, the one great to understand the nature of the outer gods' relationships, We must begin at the very beginning, with the cosmological foundation that underlies all existence in Elden Ring's universe, the One Great. This primordial entity represents perhaps the most crucial piece of evidence in determining whether the outer gods are truly competing, or whether their apparent conflicts mask a deeper, more fundamental unity. The concept of the One Great is primarily conveyed to us through Hyetta, a mysterious character who speaks on behalf of the Three Fingers and the Frenzied Flame. According to her revelations, all that there is came from the One Great. This simple statement carries profound implications for our understanding of cosmic hierarchy and divine relationships. If all existence emerged from a single source, then the question of competition versus cooperation takes on entirely new dimensions. According to the cosmological narrative presented by the Frenzied Flame's adherents, the greater will fractured the One Great, creating the diversity of life and consciousness that characterizes the current age. This fracturing gave birth to individual souls, separate existences, the capacity for suffering, and what the Three Fingers view as a cosmic mistake. It brought torment, despair, affliction, and curses into existence. The language used to describe this event suggests significant implications. The greater will fractured the One Great rather than destroying or replacing it. This could imply that the resulting entities, potentially including the outer gods themselves, might be fragments or aspects of the original unity rather than entirely separate creations. Though this connection is not explicitly confirmed in the lore, consider the implications of this origin story. If the Scarlet Rot, the Frenzied Flame, the Formless Mother, the various moons, and even the greater will itself are all fragments of the same primordial entity, then their apparent antagonisms might be better understood as different aspects of a single consciousness attempting to reintegrate itself. Their competition for influence over the lands between might be less about conquest and more about reunion. The Frenzied Flame's ultimate goal supports this interpretation. Rather than seeking to establish its own dominance over a diverse world, it aims to melt everything away with the frenzied flame of chaos, ending fractures and birth. The specific language of ending fractures suggests a desire to repair rather than destroy, to reunify rather than dominate. The frenzied flame doesn't want to rule over the fragments. It wants to eliminate the fragmentation entirely. This perspective is reinforced by the fundamental laws that govern reality in Elden Ring's universe. The law of regression states that all things yearn eternally to converge, while the law of causality describes the connections that form the relationships between all things. These aren't just abstract philosophical principles. They're described as fundamental forces that shape reality itself. The very structure of existence seems designed to promote unity and connection rather than permanent separation and conflict. The paradox identified by characters like Goldmask becomes particularly relevant here. The Golden Order simultaneously seeks to unite all things, while maintaining the discrete relationships that can only exist between separate entities. This apparent contradiction might actually reflect the fundamental tension at the heart of existence itself. The drive toward unity inherited from the One Great conflicting with the reality of fragmentation that characterizes the current age. Archaeological evidence throughout the lands between supports this interpretation of cosmic history. The primordial crucible, which preceded the current age, was described as a realm where all life was unified, where the distinctions that now separate different forms of existence were blurred or non-existent. The Crucible Knights, who derive their power from this ancient source, can manifest aspects of different creatures simultaneously, suggesting a fundamental interconnectedness that transcends current categorical boundaries. The Glintstone, sorcerer's understanding of cosmic origins, provides another perspective on this ancient unity. According to their research, life began as stardust, born of a great rupture. This scientific interpretation of the One Great's fracturing aligns remarkably well with the religious mythology provided by the Frenzied Flame's adherents. Both sources point to a cosmic event that transformed unity into diversity, simplicity into complexity, peace into conflict. But here's where the narrative becomes particularly interesting. If the fracturing of the One Great was indeed a mistake, as the Frenzied Flame claims, why hasn't it been corrected? The greater will, which allegedly caused this fracturing, possesses enormous power and has demonstrated the ability to reshape reality on a cosmic scale. If unity is the natural state and diversity is an aberration, why hasn't the greater will simply undone its error? One possibility is that the fracturing wasn't actually a mistake, but a necessary phase in some larger cosmic process. Perhaps the separation of the One Great into multiple entities was intended to allow for growth, development, and eventual voluntary reunification rather than static unity. Perhaps the apparent competition between outer gods is actually a complex form of cooperation aimed at achieving a more sophisticated and stable form of unity than existed before the fracturing. This interpretation finds support in the concept of synthesis that appears throughout Elden Ring's mythology, the union of Marika and Radagon, two aspects of the same being, creates something more complex and powerful than either could achieve individually. The marriage between Radagon and Renala temporarily unites the power of the greater will with the influence of the full moon. Even the Elden Ring itself seems to represent a synthesis of different cosmic forces rather than the simple dominance of a single principle. The role of Empyreans in this cosmic drama becomes particularly significant. When viewed through this lens, these beings, capable of becoming vessels for divine power, might represent attempts by the outer gods to create unified entities that can bridge the gaps between different cosmic factions. Marika herself demonstrates this possibility, serving simultaneously as a vessel for the greater will and as an individual agent capable of opposing that same will when necessary. The curses that affect Empyreans born from unions like that of Marika and Radagon take on potential new meaning in this context. Rather than being simple punishments, these afflictions might represent the difficulty inherent in attempting to reconcile different cosmic forces within a single being, though the exact mechanism behind such curses remains unclear. Malenia's Scarlet Rot and Miquella's eternal youth could be symptoms of such complexity, though this interpretation goes beyond what the lore explicitly states. Miquella's particular significance in this narrative cannot be overstated. His development of unalloyed gold, specifically to ward off the influence of outer gods, suggests an understanding that these entities might be working at cross purposes to individual welfare. Yet his later revelation as someone who seeks to charm and unify all beings under his divine influence represents a different approach to the same fundamental problem: how to achieve unity without sacrificing the diversity that gives life meaning. The concept of the One Great also helps explain some of the more puzzling aspects of how outer gods manifest their influence. Rather than being entirely separate entities competing for limited resources, they might be different facets of a single cosmic consciousness attempting to express itself through various means simultaneously. This would explain why their spheres of influence sometimes overlap, why their powers can sometimes be combined or synthesized, and why their ultimate goals often seem to converge despite their apparent antagonisms. The persistence of certain patterns across different outer god traditions supports this interpretation. The emphasis on duality that appears throughout the mythology, 2 fingers and 3 fingers, twin moons, the law of regression, and the law of causality. Marika and Radagon suggests that the fundamental structure of reality tends toward balance and complementarity rather than simple dominance and submission. even the language used to describe. The outer gods themselves provides clues about their fundamental nature. They are consistently described as existing beyond or outside the normal reality of the lands between. But this positioning might be better understood as temporal rather than spatial. They might exist outside the current age of fragmentation because they remember and embody the unity that preceded it. The fact that multiple outer gods can influence the same individual simultaneously, as we see with characters who exhibit signs of multiple divine influences, suggests that these entities are not mutually exclusive in the way that competing political powers would be. Instead, they might be complementary aspects of a larger whole that can coexist and even enhance one another under the right. Circumstances dot this understanding of the One Great as the foundation of all existence doesn't eliminate conflict between the outer gods, but it does recontextualize that conflict. Rather than being fundamental enemies fighting for incompatible goals, they might be estranged family members struggling to reconcile their different memories of home, their different understandings of what unity should look like, their different approaches to healing the wounds left by cosmic fracturing. The ultimate question raised by the concept of the One Great is whether the current age of separation and conflict is a temporary aberration or a permanent new state. The evidence suggests that reality itself tends toward reunion, that the forces which created diversity out of unity are less powerful than the forces which seek to restore connection and meaning. But the path back to unity might require passing through phases of apparent competition and conflict as different aspects of cosmic consciousness work to understand themselves and each other. Understanding the One Great as the foundation of all existence provides a crucial framework for interpreting everything else we observe about the outer gods' relationships. It suggests that their apparent competition might be a necessary phase in a larger process of cosmic healing and reunification. It implies that cooperation and conflict might not be mutually exclusive categories when applied to beings of such vast scope and complexity. As we move forward in our investigation, this foundational understanding will help us recognize patterns and connections that might otherwise seem contradictory or inexplicable. The One Great provides the context within which all other evidence must be interpreted, the baseline against which all claims of competition or cooperation must be measured. Stay with us on Sleep Talk as we continue to unravel these cosmic mysteries. The greater will, the dominant force among all the outer gods that influence the lands between. The greater will stands as the most prominent, the most actively involved, and arguably the most successful in establishing its vision of reality. Yet its position of dominance raises fascinating questions about the nature of its relationships with other cosmic entities. Is the greater will a conqueror that has subjugated its rivals? Or is it a coordinator attempting to manage a complex system of divine influences for some greater purpose? The greater will's origin story, as we understand it, positions it as the agent responsible for fracturing the One Great and creating the current age of diversity and separation. This act could be interpreted as either cosmic vandalism or cosmic necessity, depending on one's perspective. The fact that it emerged from this fracturing, not as a destroyer, but as an organizer, suggests something more complex than simple appetite for domination. From the very beginning, the greater will has demonstrated a consistent preference for order, structure, and systematic governance rather than chaos or arbitrary rule. It doesn't simply impose its will through raw power. Instead, it creates elaborate systems of intermediaries, representatives, and institutional structures designed to manage reality in accordance with its principles. This approach suggests a being that understands the value of delegation, cooperation, and systematic organization. The relationship between the greater Will and its primary representatives reveals much about its operating philosophy. The two fingers serve as its communicators and interpreters, translating cosmic will into guidance that mortal beings can understand and follow. Meteor, the mother of fingers, serves as an intermediary between the greater will and the two fingers, suggesting a complex hierarchical structure rather than direct divine intervention in mundane affairs. Most significantly, the greater will doesn't attempt to rule directly. Instead, it empowers mortal agents, first Marika, then potentially the Tarnished, to serve as vessels for its vision while maintaining their individual agency and decision-making capacity. This represents a sophisticated understanding that effective governance requires willing participation rather than mere compulsion. The Elden Ring itself demonstrates the greater will's approach to cosmic management. Rather than being a simple tool of domination, the Elden Ring functions as a complex system for encoding and implementing the fundamental laws that govern reality. It can be modified, adapted, and even shattered while maintaining its essential function as a framework for ordered existence. This flexibility suggests that the greater will values stability and functionality over rigid control. Greater will's relationship with other outer gods reveals what appears to be a pattern of absorption and synthesis, rather than simple conquest. Consider its handling of the fell god's power. Rather than completely eliminating the giant's flame after the war against the giants, the greater will's forces incorporated elements of this power into their own religious practices through the fire monks. These servants of the Golden Order use incantations that channel power related to the very flame that once threatened to burn down the Erdtree. The fire monks were originally appointed to guard the sealed flame, but according to item descriptions, they became beguiled by its power and began to worship it out of reverence and fear. This pattern appears in other relationships as well. The peace made with the ancient dragons after their war, which allowed dragon cult incantations to coexist with the Golden Order. The accommodation of glintstone sorcery within the broader framework of cosmic law. The temporary alliance with the full moon through Radagon's marriage to Renala. These examples could suggest a cosmic entity that sometimes incorporates useful elements from other systems, rather than destroying them entirely. The greater will's treatment of the Academy of Raya Lucaria provides perhaps the clearest example of this approach. Rather than destroying the Academy or forbidding the study of sorcery, the greater will's forces subjugated the institution while allowing it to continue its research and teaching. The relationship is described as one of dominance rather than partnership, but it's dominance that preserves and makes use of what it conquers, rather than simply eliminating it. This integrative approach extends to the greater will's relationship with individual Empyreans as well. Rather than creating puppet gods who simply implement its will without question, it selects beings who possess their own agency, wisdom, and capacity for independent decision-making. Marika's eventual rebellion against the greater will's wishes demonstrates that this system accepts, and perhaps even encourages, creative tension between divine will and individual judgment. The complexity of Marika's relationship with the greater will illuminates the sophisticated nature of divine governance in this universe. She serves simultaneously as vessel, interpreter, and potential opponent of the cosmic force that empowered her. Her decision to shatter the Elden Ring represents not a failure of the greater will system, but perhaps an intended feature A, mechanism for adaptation and renewal when established. Order becomes stagnant or harmful. The greater will's response to the shattering further demonstrates its approach to cosmic management. Rather than immediately intervening to restore order through raw power, it implemented a complex plan involving the return of the Tarnished, the guidance provided through sites of grace, and the gradual restoration of the Elden Ring through individual effort and achievement. This approach suggests a cosmic entity that values earned rather than imposed solutions, though the fate of Marika herself after the shattering remains unclear. She appears to be suspended within the Erdtree, though whether this represents imprisonment, transformation, or some other state is not explicitly explained in the lore. The relationship between the greater will and the Frenzied Flame provides crucial insight into how cosmic entities that emerge from the same source might interact. Rather than engaging in direct warfare, these two forces seem to represent complementary approaches to the same fundamental problem: how to deal with the suffering and chaos that emerged from the fracturing of the One Great. The greater will seeks to manage and minimize the suffering through order and structure, while the Frenzied Flame seeks to eliminate it entirely through a return to unity. The fact that Miquella's needle can ward off the influence of the Frenzied Flame suggests that the greater will system includes mechanisms for protecting individuals from cosmic influences they don't wish to accept. This represents a remarkable level of respect for individual agency, even when that agency might be exercised in ways that oppose the greater will's immediate interests. The greater will's relationship with death and the rune of destined death reveals another aspect of its integrative approach. Rather than eliminating death entirely or allowing it to operate without restraint, the greater will incorporated death into its cosmic system while placing limitations on its application. The removal of destined death from the Elden Ring and its assignment to Malekith suggests a complex understanding that some forces are too dangerous to eliminate but too important to ignore. The persistence of those who live in death and the various undead creatures throughout the lands between indicates that the greater will's control over death is not absolute. This might represent a limitation of its power, but it could also indicate a deliberate choice to allow alternative forms of existence, rather than imposing a single model of life and death on all beings. The greater will's relationship with the various moon entities provides perhaps the clearest example of cooperative coexistence between different outer gods. Marriage between Radagon and Renala created a temporary but significant alliance between the Golden Order and the power of the full moon. Even after this alliance ended, the relationship between these cosmic forces remained complex rather than simply antagonistic. Ranni's eventual choice to pursue the Age of Stars represents a fundamental challenge to the greater will's dominance. Yet the way this challenge plays out suggests sophisticated cosmic diplomacy rather than simple warfare. The dark moon that guides Ranni offers an alternative vision of cosmic order rather than chaos or destruction. Its goal seems to be the creation of uncertainty and freedom rather than the elimination of structure entirely. The greater will's apparent withdrawal from active involvement in the lands between during the events of the game raises important questions about its long-term strategy. The two fingers need to commune with their patron for thousands or tens of thousands of moons to receive guidance about the blocked entrance to the Erdtree, suggesting that the greater will has deliberately reduced its direct intervention in favor of allowing events to develop through other means. This withdrawal could represent weakness or distraction, but it might also indicate confidence that the systems it has established are robust enough to function without constant supervision. The continued operation of sites of grace, the persistence of the Golden Order's basic structures, and the ongoing guidance provided to the Tarnished all suggest that the greater will's influence remains active even when it's direct. Attention is focused elsewhere. The greater will's approach to governing reality demonstrates a sophisticated understanding that sustainable cosmic order requires the willing participation of multiple entities rather than the simple dominance of a single will. Its pattern of absorption, integration, and delegation suggests a cosmic entity that has learned to work with and through other forces, rather than simply overwhelming them. This approach creates space for other outer gods to operate and influence events while maintaining an overall framework that prevents complete chaos or destructive conflict. The greater will doesn't eliminate its rivals. Instead, it creates conditions under which their influence can be channeled in directions that serve broader cosmic stability. The implications of this analysis for our understanding of interdivine relationships are profound. If the greater will, despite its position of dominance, consistently chooses cooperation and integration over conquest and elimination, this suggests that the cosmic entities of Elden Ring's universe operate according to principles that favor synthesis and collaboration, even when they possess the power to impose their will. Unilaterally. The greater wills example demonstrates that cosmic entities can maintain their individual identity and pursue their particular goals while simultaneously participating in larger cooperative structures. Its relationship with other outer gods suggests a model of divine interaction based on negotiation, accommodation, and mutual benefit rather than zero-sum competition for limited resources. Here on Sleep Talk, we're committed to uncovering every layer of these intricate relationships. The rebels and rivals, while the greater will established its dominance through integration and systematic governance. Other outer gods pursued markedly different approaches to cosmic influence, creating what appears to be a complex ecosystem of divine rivalry. Yet even among these apparent rebels and competitors, patterns emerge that suggest relationships far more nuanced than simple antagonism. The Frenzied Flame stands as perhaps the most direct philosophical opponent of the greater will's vision. Its fundamental goal to burn away all existence and return everything to the unity of the One Great represents a complete rejection of the diverse, structured reality that the greater will has spent millennia creating and maintaining. Yet the relationship between these cosmic forces reveals fascinating complexities that challenge simple interpretations of cosmic warfare. The three fingers, which serve as the Frenzied Flame's primary representatives in the lands between, operate in parallel to the two fingers rather than in direct opposition. Both sets of entities communicate cosmic will to mortal agents. Both provide guidance and power to those who seek it, and both respect individual choice, even when that choice might work against their immediate interests. The fact that they represent two halves of what was once a complete hand suggests an intimate connection rather than fundamental alienation. Frenzied Flame's influence manifests differently than other outer gods' power. Rather than working through established institutions or religious orders, it spreads through individual revelation and personal transformation. Those who encounter the Frenzied Flame experience direct cosmic consciousness rather than mediated divine instruction. This approach suggests an entity that values immediate, authentic experience over systematic indoctrination. The persecution of those who follow the Frenzied Flame by the Golden Order represents one of the clearest examples of conflict between different divine factions. The burial of the nomadic merchants beneath Lanedell and their subsequent transformation into agents of the Egg. Frenzied Flame demonstrates how cosmic competition can have devastating consequences for mortal beings caught between opposing forces. Yet even this persecution reveals complex motivations. The greater will's forces didn't simply eliminate the merchants. Instead, they sought to contain and isolate the Frenzied Flame's influence while preserving the possibility for individual choice. The existence of Miquella's needle as a tool for resisting the Frenzied Flame's influence suggests that the cosmic order includes mechanisms for protecting individual agency, even against divine will. The god of Scarlet Rot represents a different model of cosmic rebellion, one focused on transformation and renewal rather than unity through destruction. This entity's influence spreads through biological and environmental transformation, creating new forms of life and consciousness rather than eliminating existing ones. The relationship between decay and rebirth that characterizes the Scarlet Rot suggests a cosmic principle that values change and growth over stability and preservation. The ceiling of the god of Scarlet Rot by a blind swordsman represents another example of how cosmic conflicts play out in this universe. Rather than destroying this entity entirely, the response was containment and limitation. The god of Scarlet Rot remains active beneath the Lake of Rot, continuing to influence events and attract followers. But its ability to reshape reality on a massive scale has been constrained. Miquella's relationship with the Scarlet Rot demonstrates how cosmic entities can influence individuals without completely overwhelming their personal agency. Despite being born as a vessel for this outer god's power, Miquella maintains her individual identity, her personal relationships, and her capacity for choice. Her restraint in using the Scarlet Rot's full power, until her desperate battle with Radon suggests that divine influence operates through negotiation with individual, or rather than simple possession. The fact that Miquella could create tools to ward off the Scarlet Rot's influence while working to cure his sister indicates that cosmic forces in this universe can be studied, understood, and countered through sufficient knowledge and skill. This suggests that outer gods operate according to discoverable principles rather than arbitrary divine caprice. The Formless Mother presents yet another model of cosmic influence, one based on the cultivation of specific emotional and physical states rather than broad environmental transformation. This entity's association with blood, wounds, and suffering suggests a cosmic principle that finds value in pain and sacrifice, rather than comfort and security. Mo's devotion to the Formless Mother demonstrates how cosmic entities can provide purpose and meaning to beings who feel excluded from mainstream divine favor. The Omen, rejected by the Golden Order, found acceptance and empowerment through this alternative divine relationship. This pattern suggests that different outer gods serve different spiritual and psychological needs rather than simply competing for the same pool of worshippers. The relationship between the Yathian, Formless Mother, and the Blood Fiend tribes in the shadow of the Fae, Erdtree expansion reveals how cosmic influence can persist across different regions and cultures. These beings, located far from the main conflicts of the lands between, maintain their own relationship with this outer god while developing their own cultural practices and interpretations of divine will. The complexity of Mo's manipulation by Miquella adds another layer to our understanding of how different cosmic forces interact. The fact that Miquella could charm a devoted servant of another outer god suggests either that divine loyalty is less absolute than it appears, or that different cosmic entities might work together in ways that aren't immediately obvious to their mortal agents. The various entities associated with death, the god of the twin bird, the glow-eyed queen, and the power behind destined death represent perhaps the most complex network of divine relationships. Rather than a single cosmic force governing death, multiple entities seem to have different spheres of influence within this fundamental aspect of existence. The Deathbirds and their ghost flame represent an ancient approach to death that predates the current cosmic order. Their continued existence alongside the Greater Will's death management system suggests that multiple models of mortality can coexist rather than one necessarily eliminating the others. The use of ghost flame by various enemies and the persistence of ancient death rituals indicates that older cosmic influences remain active, even when newer ones have achieved dominance. Gloamide Queen's relationship with the Godskin Apostles and their use of destined death represents a more direct challenge to the current order. This entity's apparent goal of killing gods themselves suggests a cosmic force that values mortality and change over immortality and stasis. The fact that this power was defeated and sealed rather than destroyed entirely follows the pattern we've observed with other cosmic conflicts. The relationship between different death-associated entities becomes particularly complex when we consider the Nightshade and the outer god of night mentioned in Elden Ring, Nightrain. The association between night, death, and the alteration of fate suggests a network of related cosmic forces that might work together, despite their apparent differences in approach and methodology. The various moon entities, the full moon, dark moon, and twin moons present a different model of cosmic relationship, one that suggests possible cooperation between similar entities. Rather than competing for the same sphere of influence, these cosmic forces seem to represent different aspects of stellar and celestial power that can coexist and even complement one another. Renala's encounter with the full moon and her subsequent development of full moon sorceries demonstrates how cosmic entities can empower individuals without demanding exclusive loyalty. The Academy of Raya Lucaria's continued operation under multiple cosmic influences suggests that scholarly pursuit and magical research can benefit from diverse divine relationships, rather than being constrained by theological orthodoxy. Rani's relationship with the Dark Moon shows how cosmic entities can work through individuals to achieve goals that might not be immediately apparent. The Dark Moon's guidance toward an age of stars represents a long-term vision that requires careful planning and coordination rather than immediate action. This suggests cosmic entities that can think strategically and work toward goals that might take generations to achieve. Twin moons associated with R'hllana in the shadow of the Erdtree expansion demonstrate how cosmic forces can be combined or synthesized, rather than simply choosing between different options. The description of moon and fire, ever together, suggests that cosmic entities can form alliances or partnerships that enhance rather than diminish their individual power. What emerges from this survey of apparent rebels and rivals is a picture of cosmic diversity that seems designed to serve different aspects of existence rather than simply competing for dominance. Each outer god appears to fulfill specific functions or address particular needs that others don't fully satisfy. The Frenzied Flame serves those who seek escape from suffering through unity. The Scarlet Rot serves those who value transformation and renewal. The Formless Mother serves those who find meaning in sacrifice and struggle. The various death-associated entities serve different approaches to mortality and transition, rather than representing fundamental antagonism. These different cosmic approaches might reflect a sophisticated division of labor among entities that emerge from the same primordial source. Their apparent competition might actually be a complex form of cooperation designed to ensure that all aspects of existence receive appropriate divine attention and support. The persistence of multiple cosmic influences despite the greater will's dominance suggests a universe that benefits from diversity rather than uniformity. The fact that these entities can be studied, understood, and even warded off through sufficient knowledge and skill indicates that they operate according to consistent principles rather than arbitrary divine whim. This understanding of rebel and rival outer gods is specialized rather than simply oppositional. Entities provides crucial context for interpreting their interactions with one another and with the dominant cosmic order. Their relationships might be better understood as complex negotiations between different aspects of divine consciousness rather than simple warfare between incompatible enemies. The subtle influences, beyond the major cosmic powers that dominate the narrative of Elden Ring. A constellation of more subtle divine influences operates throughout the lands between, weaving together connections that suggest a complex web of cosmic cooperation rather than simple competition. These entities work through environmental transformation, cultural influence, and gradual psychological change rather than dramatic divine intervention. Yet their collective impact on the world may be as significant as that of their more prominent cousins, the entities associated with celestial bodies and stellar phenomena represent perhaps the most sophisticated network of cosmic cooperation in the entire mythology. The various moons, full, dark, and twin, along with the primeval current of the stars, demonstrate how cosmic forces can maintain distinct identities while participating in larger collaborative structures. The full moon's relationship with Renala and the Academy of Raya. Lucaria established a model of divine mortal cooperation that emphasized learning, growth, and the development of human potential rather than simple worship and obedience. The sorceries that emerged from this relationship don't simply channel raw divine power. Instead, they represent sophisticated techniques for understanding and manipulating the fundamental forces that govern reality. The Academy's approach to magical research demonstrates how cosmic influence can enhance, rather than constrain, intellectual development. The glintstone sorceries developed through study of falling stars provide tools for investigating reality itself, suggesting that some cosmic entities actively support mortal efforts to understand the universe rather than demanding blind faith and unquestioning obedience. Dark Moon's relationship with Rani reveals an even more complex model of divine mortal partnership. Rather than providing direct power or immediate solutions, the Dark Moon serves as a guide toward understanding cosmic principles that can be applied through individual effort and intelligence. Rani's development from student to agent to potential successor of this cosmic force suggests a relationship based on mentorship rather than domination. Age of Stars ending that Rani can bring about represents perhaps the most radical transformation of cosmic order presented in the game. Yet it achieves this transformation through subtle influence rather than dramatic conquest. The Dark Moon's vision of reality is uncertain and guided by individual choice. Rather than divine decree, represents a sophisticated understanding of how cosmic power can be exercised in ways that enhance, rather than diminish mortal agency. The twin moons associated with Relana in the shadow of the Erdtree expansion demonstrate how celestial entities can form partnerships with one another as well as with mortal agents. The description of these moons as nestled against one another suggests an intimate, cooperative relationship rather than competitive coexistence. The fact that they can be combined with fire magic indicates a willingness to work with other cosmic forces rather than insisting on exclusive spheres of influence. The primeval current of the stars represents an even more subtle form of cosmic influence, one that operates through the natural laws that govern magical and physical phenomena rather than through direct divine intervention. The astrologer's study of this force led to the development of sophisticated theoretical frameworks for understanding reality, suggesting a cosmic entity that reveals itself through investigation and analysis rather than revelation and faith. The relationship between stellar magic and dragon worship reveals unexpected connections between apparently unrelated cosmic influences. The fact that certain sorceries incorporate elements of both traditions suggests that cosmic forces can cross-pollinate and enhance one another rather than simply competing for adherence. The survival of both magical traditions within the Golden Order indicates that cosmic Diversity can be maintained even under unified political authority. The entities associated with death and transition operate through similarly subtle mechanisms, transforming cultural practices and individual consciousness rather than imposing dramatic environmental changes. The god of the twin bird and its associated deathbirds represent an ancient approach to mortality that emphasizes natural cycles and spiritual transformation rather than the preservation of life or the prevention of decay. The ghost flame associated with these entities serves different functions than the fire of other cosmic forces. Rather than providing warmth, light, or destructive power, ghost flame facilitates transition between different states of existence. Its use in ancient death rituals suggests a cosmic entity that serves as a guide through fundamental changes rather than a source of power for temporal purposes. Persistence of these ancient death practices, alongside newer approaches to mortality, demonstrates how cosmic influences can coexist across different time periods rather than simply replacing one another. The continued existence of deathbirds and the ongoing availability of ghost flame-based sorceries indicates that the cosmic order accommodates multiple approaches to fundamental existential questions. Glowing-eyed queen and her associated godskin. Apostles represent a more active approach to death-related cosmic influence, yet one that still operates primarily through cultural transformation rather than environmental dominance. The development of techniques for hunting and killing gods suggests a cosmic entity that values change and renewal over stability and preservation, yet one that works through trained agents rather than direct intervention. The black flame associated with this tradition serves as a tool for fundamental transformation rather than simple destruction. Its ability to reduce divine beings to mortality suggests a cosmic principle that opposes the concentration of power and immortality in specific individuals or entities. This represents a form of cosmic balance-keeping rather than simple antagonism toward particular divine factions. Fact that black flame techniques persist and can be learned, even after the apparent defeat of the glow-eyed queen, indicates that cosmic influences can survive the elimination of their primary agents. This suggests that these entities operate through principles and techniques that can be transmitted and developed rather than depending entirely on direct divine presence. The blood star and its associated thorn sorceries represent perhaps the most mysterious form of subtle cosmic influence. These entities work through the manipulation of emotional and psychological states rather than physical transformation or intellectual development. The association between blood, thorns, and blindness suggests a cosmic principle that finds value in suffering and sacrifice as paths to wisdom and power. The development of aberrant sorceries by criminals and outcasts indicates that some cosmic influences specifically serve those rejected by mainstream society. The Blood Star's edict to spurn all that exists and wound all that exists represents a cosmic response to abandonment and isolation rather than a simple appetite for destruction. This suggests divine entities that serve psychological and spiritual needs that other cosmic forces don't address. The shared emphasis on blood between thorn sorceries and the Formless Mother has led some to speculate about connections between these cosmic influences. Though the exact nature of any such relationship remains unclear, what's evident is that both traditions find meaning in blood and wounding, suggesting the possibility of overlapping spheres of influence rather than mutually exclusive territories. The fell god's relationship with the fire giants and its subsequent integration into fire monk practices demonstrates perhaps the most clear example of how subtle cosmic influences can be absorbed and transformed rather than simply eliminated. The continued availability of giants' flame incantations within the Golden Order shows how cosmic forces can maintain their essential character while adapting to new political and religious contexts. Fell God's association with creative force through the Giant's Forge reveals how entities that appear threatening can actually serve essential cosmic functions. The flame that can burn the Erdtree is the same flame that enables the creation of powerful weapons and tools. This dual nature suggests cosmic entities that embody necessary destructive and creative principles rather than simply representing forces of opposition or chaos. The persistence of the fell god's influence, despite the apparent death of the entity itself, demonstrates how cosmic forces can continue to operate through the principles and techniques they established rather than requiring ongoing direct divine presence. The fire giant's continued service as keeper of the flame indicates that cosmic relationships can transcend the apparent death or defeat of primary divine agents. The integration of fell god techniques into fire monk practices shows how cosmic influences can be domesticated and channeled without losing their essential power. The fact that fire monks can use these techniques while serving the Golden Order suggests that cosmic cooperation can occur even between entities that were once in direct conflict. Subtle nature of these cosmic influences suggests a universe where divine power operates primarily through inspiration, education, and gradual transformation rather than dramatic intervention and immediate change. These entities seem to understand that sustainable influence requires the willing participation of mortal agents rather than simple compulsion or overwhelming power. The complex web of relationships between these subtle cosmic forces indicates a level of coordination and cooperation that transcends simple competition for influence or resources. Their ability to work together while maintaining distinct identities suggests a sophisticated understanding of how diversity can serve larger cosmic purposes. This pattern of subtle influence and cooperative relationship provides crucial context for understanding how the more prominent cosmic entities might also be working together despite their apparent conflicts. If even relatively minor divine forces can maintain complex cooperative relationships, it seems likely that major cosmic powers would also find ways to coordinate their activities for mutual benefit. Evidence of competition, while patterns of cooperation and integration appear throughout the cosmic mythology of Elden Ring. Substantial evidence also exists for genuine competition and conflict between different outer gods. These conflicts range from direct warfare and active suppression to more subtle forms of rivalry and theological opposition. Understanding these competitive dynamics is crucial for developing a complete picture of interdivine relationships. The war against the giants represents perhaps the most dramatic example of direct military conflict between different cosmic factions. This wasn't simply a political war between different nations. It was a theological conflict between incompatible visions of cosmic order. The Greater Will's forces sought to eliminate the fell god's influence entirely, viewing the Giant's Flame as an existential threat to the Erdtree and the broader Golden Order. The scale and intensity of this conflict suggest genuine cosmic antagonism rather than mere political disagreement. The near-total extinction of the fire giants, the deliberate destruction of their civilization, and the ongoing suppression of their religious practices indicate a level of hostility that goes beyond normal competitive rivalry. The Greater Will's forces didn't seek to convert or integrate the giants. They sought to eliminate them as a cosmic influence entirely. The cursing of the last fire giant to serve as eternal keeper of the flame represents a particularly cruel form of cosmic domination. Rather than simply eliminating the fell god's influence completely, the Greater Will forced its former enemy to serve as a living reminder of defeat while maintaining the very power that posed a threat to the Golden Order. According to the Fire Giant's remembrance, this curse condemned the giants to serve as keepers of the flame for eternity, though they were released from this solitary curse through their defeat in war. The sealing of the flame, rather than its complete extinguishment, indicates that even in victory, the greater will recognized limits to its power over other cosmic forces. The prophecy that this flame would eventually burn the Erdtree suggests that cosmic conflicts have long-term consequences that can't be completely controlled, even by victorious entities. The greater will's inability to permanently eliminate this threat demonstrates that cosmic competition involves entities of roughly comparable ultimate power. The treatment of fire monks as guardians of the sealed flame reveals how cosmic conflict can create complex loyalties and psychological tensions. These servants of the Golden Order were tasked with containing the very power that their theological enemies had wielded. Yet they gradually became fascinated and influenced by the force they were meant to suppress. This represents a form of cosmic subversion that operates through prolonged contact rather than dramatic conversion, the persecution of those who follow. The Frenzied Flame provides another clear example of active cosmic competition. The burial of the nomadic merchants beneath Langdell and their subsequent transformation into agents of madness demonstrates how cosmic conflicts can have devastating consequences for mortal beings caught between opposing forces. The greater will's forces didn't simply exile or convert these merchants. They sought to eliminate them as potential conduits for rival cosmic influence. Development of the three fingers as a distinct entity, opposed to the two fingers, suggests that cosmic fragmentation can occur even within originally unified forces. The fact that these entities represent complementary halves of a complete hand indicates that cosmic competition can emerge from internal divisions rather than external conflicts. This pattern suggests that rivalry between cosmic entities might be an inevitable consequence of the fracturing process that created the current age. The Golden Order's active suppression of knowledge about the Frenzied Flame demonstrates how cosmic competition can extend to information warfare. The branding of prophets who foresee the burning of the Erdtree as heretics indicates that the greater will recognizes the power of ideas and revelations to undermine its authority. This suggests cosmic entities that understand the importance of controlling narrative and interpretation as well as raw power. The sealing of the god of Scarlet Rot beneath the Lake of Rot represents another example of cosmic containment rather than elimination. The fact that this entity required active suppression by a blind swordsman suggests that it posed a genuine threat to the established cosmic order. The ongoing influence of the Scarlet Rot, despite this sealing, indicates that cosmic competition involves entities that can't be permanently defeated through conventional means. The relationship between millennia and the god of Scarlet Rot reveals how cosmic competition can work through unwilling agents. Millennia's birth as a vessel for this entity's power created a permanent challenge to the Golden Order that existed within the very family of its primary representative. This suggests cosmic entities that can establish long-term strategic positions even when they lack immediate power to challenge dominant forces directly. The fact that Miquella needed to develop specialized techniques to ward off the Scarlet Rot's influence demonstrates that cosmic competition involves entities with different but potentially incompatible approaches to existence. The Scarlet Rot's emphasis on decay and transformation conflicts fundamentally with the Golden Order's preference for stability and preservation. These aren't simply different methods for achieving the same goals. They represent incompatible visions of what reality should become. The suppression of destined death and its removal from the Elden Ring reveals another form of cosmic competition based on theological and philosophical disagreement. The power to kill gods themselves represents a challenge to the permanence and authority that divine entities typically claim for themselves. The gloam-eyed queen's apparent use of this power against other divine beings suggests cosmic rivalry that could threaten the existence of established entities. The defeat and sealing of the gloam-eyed queen by Malekith demonstrates how cosmic competition can involve direct confrontation between divine champions, rather than the entities themselves. This pattern of proxy warfare appears throughout the mythology, suggesting that cosmic entities recognize the risks of direct confrontation and prefer to work through agents who can be sacrificed without compromising their own existence. The continued availability of black flame techniques, despite the defeat of their primary patron, indicates that cosmic competition can involve the theft or appropriation of rival powers rather than simple elimination. The fact that these techniques can be learned and used by others suggests that cosmic entities can't maintain exclusive control over their signature abilities once those abilities have been introduced into the world. The complex relationship between different death-associated entities reveals how cosmic competition can occur within overlapping spheres of influence. The god of the twin bird, a gloam-eyed queen, and the power behind destined death all operate within the general domain of mortality, yet they seem to represent different and potentially conflicting approaches to death and transition. The eclipse ritual attempted at Castle Sol demonstrates how cosmic competition can involve attempts to resurrect or restore defeated entities. Miquella's effort to return Godwin's soul to his body represents a challenge to the current death management system that could have upset the balance of power between different cosmic forces. The failure of this ritual suggests that established cosmic entities can defend their spheres of influence against revival attempts. The persecution of Omen by the Golden Order reveals how cosmic competition can involve the suppression of beings who might serve as vessels for rival divine influences. The Omen's connection to the primordial crucible and their potential utility to entities like the Formless Mother made them a threat to Golden Order stability even when they weren't actively opposing the established system. The relationship between different sorcery traditions reveals competitive dynamics within the academic and intellectual spheres. The dominance of Golden Order fundamentalism over other forms of magic represents an attempt to control how cosmic forces are studied and understood. The survival of alternative traditions within the Academy of Raya Lucaria suggests resistance to this intellectual monopoly. The treatment of aberrant sorcerers and their exile to the mountaintops demonstrates how cosmic competition can involve the suppression of alternative approaches to magical research. These scholars' discovery of blood-related sorceries represents the development of techniques that challenge established magical orthodoxy. Their persecution indicates that cosmic entities recognize the threat posed by uncontrolled magical innovation. The G. Hornson's resistance to Mesmer's crusade in the shadow of the Erdtree expansion reveals how cosmic competition can involve the clash between different cultural and religious traditions. The Hornson's practices, which incorporated elements from multiple cosmic influences, represented a challenge to the Golden Order's claims of universal authority. The violent suppression of their civilization demonstrates how cosmic competition can escalate to attempted cultural genocide. The complex relationship between Mesmer and his serpentine nature suggests that cosmic competition can occur within individual beings as well as between different factions. The sealing of the base serpent within Mesmer indicates that cosmic entities can be imprisoned within other beings as a form of containment. This represents a sophisticated form of cosmic conflict that involves psychological and spiritual warfare rather than simple physical confrontation. The evidence for genuine competition between outer gods demonstrates that these entities do have conflicting interests and incompatible goals that can't always be resolved through negotiation or compromise. The scale and intensity of some conflicts suggest that cosmic entities are capable of genuine hostility and mutual antagonism rather than simple professional rivalry. However, the patterns of containment, sealing, and suppression, rather than complete elimination, suggest that even in serious conflict, cosmic entities recognize limits to their power and the potential dangers of attempting to completely destroy their rivals. The persistence of rival influences, even after apparent defeat, indicates that cosmic competition operates within constraints that prevent total victory by any single entity. This evidence of genuine competition provides important balance to the patterns of cooperation and integration we've observed elsewhere. The cosmic entities of Elden Ring are clearly capable of both collaboration and conflict, suggesting a complex political and theological environment where relationships can shift based on circumstances, goals, and opportunities rather than being fixed in permanent patterns of alliance or antagonism. Evidence of cooperation. Despite the substantial evidence for competition and conflict between outer gods, equally compelling patterns of cooperation, synthesis, and mutual support appear throughout Elden Ring's cosmic mythology. These collaborative relationships suggest that the apparent conflicts we've observed might represent only one dimension of much more complex interdivine relationships. The marriage between Radagon and Renala created a temporary but significant alliance between the Golden Order and the power of the full moon. This union, which occurred during or after the Liurnian Wars between the Golden Order and the Academy of Raya Lucaria, represented genuine theological synthesis that created new possibilities for both cosmic traditions rather than simple political accommodation. The union produced 3 children: Rani, who is confirmed as an Empyrean Rodin, and Rykard, each of whom demonstrated abilities that combined elements from both cosmic traditions. Rani's mastery of both sorcery and divine authority, Radin's combination of physical prowess with gravity magic, and Rykard's integration of volcanic power with serpentine transformation, all suggest that cosmic cooperation can produce hybrid entities with capabilities that exceed what either parent tradition could achieve independently. Academy of Raya Lucaria's continued operation under Golden Order authority provides Anno. Third example of successful cosmic cooperation. Rather than eliminating sorcery or forcing complete conversion to Golden Order principles, the Greater Will's forces allowed the Academy to continue its research while integrating it into the broader cosmic hierarchy. This arrangement benefited both traditions. The Golden Order gained access to sophisticated magical techniques, while sorcery received protection and official recognition. The development of hybrid magical techniques that combine elements from different cosmic traditions demonstrates how cooperation can produce innovation rather than simply preserving existing approaches. Golden Order fundamentalism incorporates mathematical principles derived from sorcery research, while some sorceries include elements that seem influenced by Golden Order theology. These synthetic approaches suggest cosmic entities that can learn from and enhance one another rather than simply competing for dominance. The integration of fire giant techniques into fire monk practices represents perhaps the most remarkable example of how cosmic cooperation can emerge from apparent defeat, rather than simply eliminating the fell god's influence after the war. Against the giants, the Greater Will's forces incorporated these techniques into their own religious practices. Fire monks use incantations that channel the very power that once threatened to burn down the Erdtree, transforming a hostile force into a useful tool. This integration wasn't simply theft or appropriation. It involved genuine synthesis that preserved the essential character of Giant's flame magic while adapting it to serve Golden Order purposes. The fact that these techniques retained their effectiveness while serving new theological purposes suggests cosmic entities that can collaborate even across historical conflicts and apparent incompatibilities. The relationship between different death-associated entities reveals a complex network of cooperation within overlapping spheres of influence. Rather than competing for exclusive control over mortality, entities like the god of the Twinbird, the power behind destined death, and various other death-related forces seem to have developed specialized roles that complement rather than contradict one another. The Deathbird's ghost flame serves different functions than the black flame of the Godskin Apostles, which serves different purposes than the gold-tinged death magic incorporated into the Golden Order system. These different approaches to mortality suggest cosmic entities that have negotiated a division of labor rather than engaging in zero-sum competition for the same territory. The persistence of ancient death rituals, alongside newer approaches, demonstrates how cosmic cooperation can involve the preservation of multiple traditions rather than the replacement of old systems with new ones. The continued use of ghost flame in various contexts suggests that the cosmic order accommodates multiple approaches to fundamental existential questions rather than demanding uniformity. The complex relationship between blood-related cosmic influences reveals another network of cooperative relationships. The Formless Mother's association with blood and wounds connects with the Blood Star's influence over thorn sorceries, which relates to various hemorrhage-inducing techniques found throughout the lands between. Rather than representing competing claims to the same domain, these different blood-related influences seem to serve complementary functions. The fact that blood-based techniques can be combined with other forms of magic suggests cosmic entities that encourage synthesis rather than demanding exclusive loyalty. The availability of blood magic to characters who also use other cosmic influences indicates a level of theological flexibility that prioritizes effectiveness over orthodoxy. The relationship between different stellar and celestial entities demonstrates sophisticated cosmic coordination rather than simple competition. The full moon, arc moon, and twin moons don't seem to compete for the same followers or spheres of influence. Instead, they appear to represent different aspects of celestial power that can coexist and even enhance one another. The primeval current of the stars operates as a background force that influences multiple magical traditions rather than demanding exclusive adherence. Sorcerers can study stellar influences while also incorporating elements from other cosmic traditions, suggesting a celestial entity that values learning and development over theological purity. The fact that Rani can pursue an age of stars while maintaining connections to other cosmic influences demonstrates how stellar entities can work toward long-term goals that don't require the elimination of alternative approaches to cosmic order. The dark moon's vision of uncertainty and freedom can coexist with other cosmic visions rather than necessarily replacing them. Miquella's development of unalloyed gold represents perhaps the most sophisticated example of cosmic cooperation through technological innovation. Rather than choosing between different cosmic influences or attempting to eliminate unwanted divine attention, Miquella created techniques that could ward off harmful cosmic influences while preserving beneficial ones. The fact that Miquella's needle can protect against the Frenzied Flame while allowing other cosmic influences to continue operating suggests a nuanced understanding of how divine forces can be managed rather than simply accepted or rejected wholesale. This represents a form of cosmic diplomacy that recognizes the value of different divine approaches while protecting individual agency and choice. Miquella's vision of an age of compassion that would embrace all beings regardless of their cosmic Affiliations demonstrates how divine entities can work toward inclusive goals rather than demanding exclusive loyalty. His ability to charm beings associated with different cosmic traditions suggests cooperative potential that transcends apparent theological incompatibilities. The shadow of the Erdtree expansion reveals additional examples of cosmic cooperation in the relationship between Mesmer's forces and various divine influences. The furnace golems combine elements from the fell god's fire with other cosmic influences, while the various followers of Miquella represent a coalition of beings from different traditions working toward common goals. The fact that Mesmer himself embodies multiple cosmic influences, both serpentine power and divine fire, demonstrates how individual beings can serve as bridges between different cosmic traditions rather than requiring exclusive commitment to single entities. This suggests cosmic entities that value synthesis and integration over purity and separation. The persistence of multiple cosmic influences within individual regions and cultures demonstrates how cooperation can occur at the grassroots level, even when higher-level theological authorities might prefer exclusive systems. The Hornsense integration of multiple divine traditions, the Blood Fiend tribe's combination of different cosmic influences, and various other examples show how cosmic cooperation can emerge through practical necessity rather than formal theological agreement. The availability of techniques from multiple cosmic traditions to individual practitioners suggests that cosmic entities recognize the value of diversity and choice rather than demanding exclusive loyalty. Characters can learn incantations from different divine sources, combine magical techniques from various traditions, and serve multiple cosmic influences simultaneously without necessarily creating theological conflicts. The role of merchants, scholars, and other knowledge-sharing individuals in preserving and transmitting techniques from different cosmic traditions demonstrates how cooperation can occur through cultural exchange rather than formal diplomatic agreements. The fact that cosmic techniques can be taught, learned, and preserved across different communities suggests divine entities that value the spread of knowledge and capability rather than hoarding power for exclusive use. The evidence for cosmic cooperation suggests that the outer gods of Elden Ring operate according to more sophisticated principles than simple competition for limited resources. Their ability to form alliances, create synthetic approaches, negotiate divisions of labor, and work toward inclusive goals indicates cosmic entities that understand the value of collaboration, even when they maintain distinct identities and goals. This cooperative dimension of interdivine relationships provides crucial context for interpreting the conflicts we've observed. Competition and cooperation might not be mutually exclusive categories when applied to cosmic entities of such vast scope and complexity. The ability to engage in both competitive and cooperative relationships, depending on circumstances, suggests divine entities with sophisticated understanding of strategy, diplomacy, and long-term planning. The patterns of cosmic cooperation we've identified suggest that the ultimate goals of different outer gods might be more compatible than their immediate methods would suggest. Their various approaches to cosmic order, divine authority, and the management of existence might represent different strategies for achieving similar underlying objectives rather than fundamentally incompatible visions of reality. The shadow of the Erdtree revelation. The shadow of the Erdtree expansion fundamentally reshapes our understanding of cosmic relationships by revealing the true scope of Miquella's ambitions and the complex web of divine influences that operated behind the scenes of the base game events. These revelations provide crucial new evidence for how outer gods can work together toward common goals while maintaining their distinct identities and spheres of influence. Miquella's transformation from the seemingly benevolent Miquella the kind to a divine being capable of charming and manipulating entire populations represents a paradigm shift in how we understand cosmic agency and divine cooperation. His ability to influence followers of different outer gods, including devoted servants like Mo, who is completely loyal to the Formless Mother, demonstrates that cosmic manipulation can operate across different divine spheres of influence. The revelation that Mohg's devotion to Miquella was orchestrated through divine charm, rather than genuine choice, indicates sophisticated cosmic manipulation. According to Sir Ansbach's testimony, and the evidence found in the Shadow Realm, Miquella had been charming Mo for an extended period. The fact that Miquella could charm a being so completely devoted to another outer god suggests that divine loyalty may be more complex than absolute, or that different cosmic entities might work through intermediaries in ways that transcend apparent theological boundaries. Miquella's plan to use Mohg's body as a vessel for Radin's soul demonstrates how cosmic cooperation can involve the synthesis of different divine influences and mortal agents. This wasn't simply resurrection or reincarnation. It was a complex, magical procedure that combined elements from multiple cosmic traditions to achieve a goal that none of them could accomplish independently. The fact that this plan required extensive cooperation between different factions, Malenia's attack on Radin to force his death, Mohg's kidnapping of Miquella to provide the necessary vessel, and various followers working to support Miquella's journey to the realm of shadow suggests a level of coordination that spans multiple cosmic influences and operates across extended periods of time. The realm of shadow itself provides crucial evidence for cosmic cooperation through its fundamental structure as a reflection or shadow of the primary reality. Rather than being a completely separate dimension, the shadow realm maintains connections to the main world while allowing for different rules and influences to operate. This suggests cosmic entities that can create cooperative spaces where multiple divine influences can coexist and interact more freely than in the primary reality. The presence of multiple cosmic influences within the shadow realm, from Mesmer's serpentine fire to the various death-related entities to the continuing influence of the greater will through the Erdtree, demonstrates how divine entities can operate in shared spaces without necessarily eliminating one another. The fact that these influences can coexist and even enhance one another within the shadow realm suggests possibilities for cosmic cooperation that might not be immediately apparent in the main world. Mesmer's complex nature, as a being who embodies multiple cosmic influences, provides perhaps the clearest example of how divine cooperation can occur within individual entities. His serpentine nature, his connection to a dark flame that bears some visual similarities to other fire magic in the game, and his role as an agent of Marika's will all suggest a being who serves as a bridge between different cosmic traditions, rather than representing a single divine influence exclusively. The relationship between Mesmer's fire and other flame-based powers in the game reveals what could be sophisticated cosmic synthesis. Mesmer's abilities incorporate fire magic, while developing unique characteristics that serve different purposes than the giant's flame or other fire sources. This suggests the possibility that cosmic entities can learn from and build upon one another's innovations, rather than simply competing for exclusive control over particular domains, though the exact nature of these connections remains unclear in the lore. The use of furnace golems that combine imagery from the Fell God with other cosmic influences demonstrates how divine cooperation can involve the creation of hybrid entities that serve multiple cosmic purposes simultaneously. These constructs incorporate elements from different divine traditions while serving the specific goals of Mesmer's crusade, suggesting cosmic entities that can coordinate their influences to achieve common objectives. The various followers of Miquella represent a coalition of beings from different cosmic traditions, working toward common goals under divine guidance. The fact that Miquella could unite characters with different backgrounds, allegiances, and cosmic affiliations suggests a form of divine leadership that transcends traditional theological boundaries and creates new possibilities for cosmic cooperation. The presence of characters like Sir Ansbach, who maintained his individual agency and moral judgment, even while charmed by Miquella, demonstrates how cosmic cooperation can occur through influence and persuasion rather than simple domination. The fact that Ansbach could recognize and eventually resist Miquella's charm while still participating in his plans suggests cosmic entities that value genuine cooperation over mere compulsion. The relationship between the Formless Mother and the various blood-related influences in the Shadow Realm reveals how cosmic cooperation can involve the coordination of related but distinct divine forces. The presence of blood fiend tribes who worship the Formless Mother alongside other cosmic influences suggests divine entities that can share spheres of influence rather than demanding exclusive control. The complex relationship between different death-related entities within the Shadow Realm provides additional evidence for cosmic cooperation within overlapping domains. The presence of death birds, the influence of various death gods, and the continuing operation of death-related magic from multiple traditions suggests divine entities that have negotiated sophisticated divisions of labor rather than engaging in zero-sum competition. The revelation that Saint Trina represents another aspect of Miquella's divine nature demonstrates how cosmic entities can exist as multiple connected beings rather than single unified entities. The relationship between Miquella and Saint Trina mirrors the relationship between Marika and Radagon, suggesting that cosmic consciousness can be distributed across multiple individual identities while maintaining underlying unity. This pattern of distributed cosmic consciousness has profound implications for understanding interdivine relationships. If cosmic entities can exist as multiple connected beings, then apparent conflicts between different divine influences might actually represent internal negotiations within larger cosmic consciousnesses rather than genuine external conflicts between separate entities. The role of the Erdtree as a shadow or reflection of the Erdtree demonstrates how cosmic cooperation can involve the creation of parallel structures that serve different but complementary functions, rather than competing with the Erdtree for the same role. The Erdtree provides alternative sources of divine grace and spiritual sustenance for beings who might not be served by the primary cosmic order. The fact that both trees can operate simultaneously without necessarily undermining one another suggests cosmic entities that understand the value of redundancy and alternative approaches rather than demanding monopolistic control over particular functions. This represents a sophisticated understanding of cosmic governance that prioritizes stability and accessibility over simple dominance. The various cross-connections between the Shadow Realm and the primary world demonstrate how cosmic cooperation can involve the creation of communication channels and transfer mechanisms that allow different divine influences to coordinate their activities across different dimensions of reality. The ability of certain individuals to travel between realms suggests cosmic entities that value mobility and exchange rather than strict territorial separation. Miquella's ultimate goal of creating an age of compassion that would embrace all beings, regardless of their cosmic affiliations, represents perhaps the most ambitious vision of cosmic cooperation presented in the entire mythology. This wasn't simply an attempt to establish dominance over existing divine influences. It was a plan to create a new form of cosmic order that would incorporate and transcend all previous approaches. The fact that this plan required extensive cooperation from beings associated with different cosmic traditions, and that it nearly succeeded, despite the ultimate intervention of the Tarnished, suggests that cosmic cooperation on this scale is not only possible, but might represent the natural direction of divine evolution within this universe. The ultimate failure of Miquella's plan provides important insights into the limitations and challenges of cosmic cooperation. The fact that his vision required the suppression of individual agency, and that choice suggests that there might be fundamental tensions between cosmic unity and mortal, freedom that can't be easily resolved through divine intervention alone. The shadow of the Erdtree expansion demonstrates that cosmic cooperation is not only possible but actively occurring on multiple levels throughout the mythology. The revelations about Miquella's plans, the complex relationships between different divine influences within the Shadow Realm, and the sophisticated synthesis of different cosmic traditions all suggest divine entities that are far more collaborative and interconnected than surface appearances might suggest. These revelations provide crucial context for reinterpreting the conflicts and competitions we've observed elsewhere in the mythology. Rather than representing fundamental antagonisms between incompatible entities, these conflicts might be better understood as negotiations, competitions, or disagreements within a larger cooperative framework that encompasses all cosmic influences. The greater pattern stepping back from the specific examples of competition and cooperation between individual outer gods. A larger pattern emerges that could suggest these cosmic entities might be fragments of a greater consciousness, working toward reunion and integration rather than truly separate beings engaged in zero-sum competition. This interpretation provides a framework for understanding how apparently contradictory evidence can coexist within a coherent cosmic system. The concept of the One, great as the source of all existence, implies that every cosmic entity, regardless of how distinct or antagonistic it might appear, shares fundamental commonalities with all others. If the outer gods truly emerged from the fracturing of a single primordial consciousness, as the Frenzied Flame's adherents claim, then their individual characteristics might be better understood as specialized aspects of a larger whole, rather than independently developed traits. This perspective could help explain why cosmic entities demonstrate both competitive and cooperative behaviors simultaneously. From this viewpoint, competition between fragments of the same original consciousness might serve the purpose of testing different approaches to cosmic governance, developing specialized capabilities, and exploring the full range of possible responses to existential challenges. Rather than being wasteful conflict, this competition might represent a sophisticated form of cosmic experimentation. Though this remains largely speculative, the consistent patterns that appear across different cosmic traditions support this interpretation. The emphasis on duality, synthesis, and balance that characterizes relationships between cosmic entities suggests underlying structural principles that all divine influences share, regardless of their surface differences. The law of regression and the law of causality operate across all cosmic traditions, indicating fundamental forces that transcend individual divine preferences. The fact that cosmic entities can be studied, understood, and even countered through sufficient knowledge and skill suggests that they operate according to discoverable principles, rather than arbitrary divine whim. This consistency implies an underlying rational structure that encompasses all cosmic influences, even those that appear chaotic or destructive from mortal perspectives. The recurring theme of absorption and synthesis in cosmic relationships provides what could be evidence for an underlying drive toward reunion, though this interpretation requires connecting patterns that may not be intentionally related. The greater will's integration of the fell god's power, the combination of different stellar influences, the synthesis of various death-related traditions, and Miquella's vision of comprehensive unity all demonstrate cosmic forces that, at minimum, can tend toward combination rather than separation. Even apparent defeats and suppressions follow patterns that preserve rather than eliminate cosmic influences. The sealing of the god of Scarlet Rot, the containment of the Frenzied Flame's influence, the integration of Giant's Flame techniques into Fire Monk practices, and the persistence of various cosmic influences, despite political suppression, all suggest that cosmic entities may be difficult or impossible to truly destroy. Whether this represents intentional preservation or simply the resilient nature of cosmic forces remains unclear. Pattern of persistence suggests that cosmic entities serve essential functions that cannot be eliminated without damaging the overall cosmic system. Rather than being optional additions to reality that could be removed without consequence. Each outer god might represent a necessary aspect of existence that other entities recognize and protect, even when they compete with it for immediate influence. The role of Empyreans as potential vessels for cosmic consciousness provides crucial insight into how reunion might be achieved. These beings represent opportunities for different cosmic influences to work together within single individuals, rather than remaining perpetually separate. The complexity of beings like Marika, who can serve as vessel for cosmic will while maintaining individual agency, suggests sophisticated mechanisms for integrating divine and mortal consciousness. The curses that affect Empyreans, born from complex cosmic unions, might represent the stress of attempting to reconcile fundamentally different approaches to existence within single beings. Rather than being punishments, these afflictions might be symptoms of cosmic evolution, growing pains associated with the development of new forms of consciousness that can bridge different divine traditions. Miquella's development of techniques for warding off unwanted cosmic influences while preserving beneficial ones demonstrates how conscious agents can participate in cosmic evolution rather than simply being passive recipients of divine will. The creation of unalloyed gold and the crafting of needles that can resist specific cosmic influences suggest that mortal beings can serve as active participants in cosmic integration rather than merely being pawns in divine conflicts. The Tarnished's unique position as a being capable of wielding power from multiple cosmic sources without being exclusively bound to any single entity suggests a new form of consciousness that transcends the limitations of traditional cosmic relationships. The player character's ability to use incantations from different divine traditions, wield artifacts associated with various cosmic influences, and pursue multiple possible endings indicates a level of cosmic freedom that might represent the next stage in the evolution of consciousness within this universe. The various endings available to the Tarnished provide different visions of how cosmic reunion might be achieved. The traditional Elden Lord ending represents the restoration of established cosmic order with modest modifications. The Age of Stars ending represents a fundamental shift toward uncertainty and individual freedom guided by stellar influences. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending represents a return to primordial unity through the elimination of diversity and separation. Each of these endings preserves essential cosmic functions while reorganizing how they operate in relation to one another, rather than eliminating cosmic influences that don't align with the chosen ending. Each approach incorporates existing elements into new configurations that serve different priorities and values. The fact that all these endings remain viable options suggests that cosmic consciousness can evolve in multiple directions simultaneously rather than being constrained to follow a single predetermined path. This flexibility implies cosmic entities with sophisticated understanding of adaptation, experimentation, and the value of preserving alternatives, rather than committing exclusively to particular approaches. The persistence of cosmic influences across different ages and cultural contexts demonstrates how divine consciousness can maintain continuity while adapting to changing circumstances. The survival of ancient traditions alongside newer approaches the integration of different cosmic influences within individual cultures, and the ongoing availability of techniques from multiple divine sources all suggest cosmic entities that value preservation and diversity alongside innovation and change. Complex web of relationships between different cosmic influences creates a system that appears designed to maximize both stability and adaptability, rather than creating a rigid hierarchy where single entities dominate all others. The cosmic system distributes authority and influence across multiple entities that can serve as backup systems for one another while pursuing specialized approaches to common challenges. This distributed approach to cosmic governance provides resilience against catastrophic failures while allowing for innovation and experimentation. The fact that no single cosmic entity can completely eliminate all others creates a system where mistakes or destructive choices by individual entities can be countered or corrected by alternative approaches, represented by other cosmic influences. The gradual revelation of deeper connections between apparently separate cosmic entities suggests that the universe itself might be designed to promote eventual reunion and integration. The discovery that the Greater Will and Frenzied Flame represent two halves of the same original entity, the connections between different stellar influences, and the underlying unity that connects all cosmic forces point toward a cosmic system that maintains diversity as a means of achieving more sophisticated unity rather than as an end in itself. The role of time in cosmic relationships provides another crucial dimension for understanding the greater pattern. Cosmic entities operate on scales that dwarf mortal understanding, planning and implementing strategies that span millennia while maintaining patience for gradual change, rather than demanding immediate results. This temporal perspective allows for approaches to cooperation and competition that might appear contradictory from shorter-term viewpoints, but serve larger purposes when viewed across appropriate timescales. Evidence suggests that the cosmos of Elden Ring might be best understood as a single vast consciousness exploring different approaches to existence through the creation and interaction of specialized aspects of itself. The apparent competition between outer gods might represent internal dialogue within this larger consciousness, while their cooperation might represent the integration of insights gained through this cosmic self-exploration. This interpretation doesn't eliminate the reality of conflict, suffering, and genuine disagreement between cosmic entities, but it provides a framework for understanding how these challenging aspects of cosmic relationship might serve larger purposes related to growth, adaptation, and the development of increasingly sophisticated approaches to existence. The greater pattern that emerges from this analysis suggests a universe that values both unity and diversity, both stability and change, both individual agency and cosmic cooperation. Rather than being forced to choose between these apparently contradictory values, the cosmic system creates conditions where all of them can be preserved and developed simultaneously through the complex relationships between different divine influences. Conclusion and call to action. As we reach the end of our investigation into the true nature of relationships between the outer gods of Elden Ring, we find ourselves confronting a conclusion that is both more complex and more intriguing than the simple dichotomy of competition versus cooperation that we began with. The evidence reveals a cosmic system that appears to transcend these mortal categories, operating according to principles that incorporate both conflict and collaboration as necessary elements in what could be interpreted as a larger process of cosmic evolution. Based on the evidence we've examined here on Sleep Talk, the outer gods of Elden Ring are neither pure competitors locked in eternal warfare, nor harmonious collaborators working seamlessly toward common goals. Instead, They appear to represent something far more sophisticated, entities that can engage in multiple types of relationships simultaneously, influenced by circumstances, goals, and perhaps deeper connections that aren't immediately apparent to mortal observers. Their relationships demonstrate that cosmic entities of sufficient complexity and power can engage in both rivalry and cooperation as the situation requires. The greater will can absorb and integrate the foul God's power while maintaining theological opposition to fire-based approaches to cosmic governance. The various moon entities can work together toward an age of stars while pursuing distinct spheres of influence. The god of Scarlet Rot can remain sealed beneath the Lake of Rot while continuing to influence events through agents like Millennia, who maintain their individual agency even while serving as divine vessels. This multifaceted approach to cosmic relationship could reflect a universe that values both unity and diversity, though whether this represents conscious design or emerging patterns remains unclear. The evidence suggests that cosmic entities can maintain their individual perspectives and capabilities while interacting with alternative approaches represented by other cosmic entities, though the degree to which this is intentional. Coordination versus circumstantial coexistence is open to interpretation. The role of mortal agents in these cosmic relationships proves crucial to understanding how divine cooperation and competition actually operate, rather than being passive pawns in cosmic conflicts beyond their comprehension. Mortal beings serve as active participants who can influence, modify, and even redirect cosmic will through their choices and actions. The Tarnished's ability to pursue multiple different endings, each representing different approaches to cosmic governance, demonstrates that mortal agency can play a decisive role in cosmic evolution. This realization transforms our understanding of what it means to play Elden Ring and engage with its mythology. Every choice made by the player, every alliance formed or broken, every approach to power and relationship pursued by the Tarnished contributes to the larger cosmic dialogue between different approaches to existence. The game doesn't simply tell the story of cosmic relationships. It invites players to participate in their ongoing development. The evidence we've examined suggests that the apparent conflicts between outer gods might be better understood as a form of cosmic research and development, where different approaches to fundamental questions are tested, refined, and eventually integrated into more sophisticated synthesis. The competition between divine entities serves to explore the full range of possible responses to existential challenges, while their cooperation enables the preservation and transmission of useful insights across different cosmic traditions. This interpretation provides hope for resolution of the cosmic conflicts that have devastated the lands between, while preserving the diversity and freedom that make existence meaningful, rather than requiring the complete victory of any single cosmic faction. Sustainable cosmic order might emerge through continued interaction between different divine approaches, each contributing essential insights while learning from and adapting to the perspectives offered by others. The Shadow of the Erdtree expansion's revelation of Miquella's ambitious attempt to create universal unity through divine charm demonstrates both the potential and the limitations of attempts to impose cosmic cooperation through individual divine will. While Miquella's vision of an age of compassion represents a worthy goal, its reliance on compulsion rather than genuine choice ultimately undermines the very agency that makes cooperation meaningful and now sustainable. The failure of Miquella's plan suggests that authentic cosmic cooperation must emerge through voluntary participation rather than divine compulsion, no matter how benevolent the intentions behind that compulsion might be. This insight has profound implications for understanding how cosmic reunion might eventually be achieved, not through the dominance of any single divine will, but through the gradual development of mutual understanding and voluntary collaboration between entities that maintain their individual identity while working toward common goals. For those of us who study and appreciate the lore of Elden Ring, these insights transform how we approach every aspect of the game's mythology. Every item description becomes a clue to cosmic relationship patterns. Every boss battle becomes an expression of different approaches to power and authority. Every NPC interaction becomes an opportunity to observe how different cosmic influences manifest in individual behavior and choice. The depth and complexity of these cosmic relationships ensure that Elden Ring's mythology will continue to reward investigation and analysis for years to come. Each new piece of evidence, each previously overlooked connection, each fresh perspective on familiar events has the potential to reveal new dimensions of the cosmic dialogue that underlies all the game's surface narratives. As we continue to explore these mysteries, we should remember that the ultimate question is not whether the outer gods compete or cooperate, but how their complex relationships contribute to the ongoing evolution of consciousness and the gradual development of more sophisticated approaches to existence that preserve both individual freedom and cosmic unity. The cosmos of Elden Ring offers a vision of divine relationship that transcends simple categories of conflict and cooperation, providing a model for how seemingly incompatible perspectives can coexist and enhance one another within larger systems that value both diversity and unity. This vision suggests possibilities for resolving apparent contradictions, not through the elimination of differences, but through the development of frameworks sophisticated enough to incorporate multiple approaches simultaneously. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of the most complex and rewarding mythological systems ever created in interactive entertainment. If this investigation has sparked your own interest in the deeper mysteries of Elden Ring's cosmos, I encourage you to continue the research through your own gameplay and analysis. Share your discoveries, challenge interpretations that don't satisfy you, and contribute to the ongoing dialogue that keeps these magnificent mysteries alive and evolving. Don't forget to like this video if it provided new insights into the cosmic mysteries that fascinate us all, and subscribe to Sleep Talk for more deep dives into the lore that makes From Software's world so endlessly compelling. The investigation into Elden Ring's cosmic relationships is far from over, and every new perspective brings us closer to understanding the true nature of the forces that shape these unforgettable digital worlds. The outer gods may operate on scales that dwarf mortal comprehension, but their stories ultimately belong to us, the players who choose to engage with them, interpret them, and carry their mysteries forward into our own understanding of what it means to exist in a universe where individual choice and cosmic purpose can coexist in beautiful, complex, and eternally evolving harmony. Until next time on Sleep Talk, may your journey through the lands between be filled with discovery and wonder.